All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, the Chicago Blackhawks last won the Stanley Cup in 2015 as slowly but steadily their championship team has eroded. The Blackhawks have not made the postseason since 2020, as they've been in rebuild mode for the most part since then. Heading into this season, Chicago still had two of the most recognizable faces on their team from that championship run that helped to produce three Stanley Cup championships during a 6 year stretch in right winger Patrick Kane and center Jonathan Toews. And with the Blackhawks way out of playoff contention, Kane was traded to the New York Rangers just prior to the trade deadline, which only left Toews as the last link to those title teams in Chicago. Now, Toews had been out of action for more than 2 months before returning to the lineup at the beginning of this month. And as the Blackhawks closed out the regular season on Thursday night at home with a win over the Philadelphia Flyers, the fans at the United Center showered their captain with the praise that he deserves in what was most likely his last home game in the red and black. Now, the rebuild is in full effect in Chicago, and as Taves is set to become an unrestricted free agent, the soon to be 35-year-old and future Hall of Famer is no longer in the future plans of the Blackhawks. Now, like Kane, Taves will leave Chicago as one of the most decorated players in franchise history. You think about it, Taves is sixth in goals scored for the Blackhawks, fifth in games played, eighth in assists, and sixth in points. You're talking about a guy who won the Conn Smythe in 2010 as like in helping Chicago win the Stanley Cup. He was a six-time All-Star, and along with Kane, Duncan Keith, Marian Hossa, Patrick Sharp, Corey Crawford, and Brent Seabrook, Taves helped make the Blackhawks one of the most formidable teams in the NHL during the 2010s, as no team in the league won more championships, three, during that decade than Chicago. To me, it was fitting that Taves' last game with the Blackhawks came against the Philadelphia Flyers, as this was the team that he helped Chicago defeat in 2010 in the Stanley Cup final to win their first championship during this run. Now, of course, at the end of the day, one of the questions is going to be, what is Jonathan Toews' legacy in Chicago? And I'll tell you like this: Jonathan Toews will never, and I repeat, never have to buy another drink at a bar within the Windy City limits, because anytime that you win a championship in a great sports city like Chicago, which it is, okay, you are revered, you are respected, and it's something that the school kids know about. Jonathan Taves not only helped the Blackhawks win one championship, he helped them win three, and they were, you figure, from about 2009 to probably like 2016, maybe 2017. As soon as the puck dropped to begin the NHL season, you thought about the Blackhawks potentially making a run to the Stanley Cup. Now, the Blackhawks have had some legends play for their team through over the years, and some of those legends include the likes of Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita, just to name a few. I mean, if I went down the list of all of the legends that have played for the Chicago Blackhawks, we might be here for quite some time. But nonetheless, a guy like Taves, he has cemented himself in the deep and storied legacy of this franchise. And the Blackhawks have a long and storied legacy when you talk about them being one of the original six franchises. So Taves is going to be 35. I do not think this is the end of the line for him playing in the NHL if he does not want it to be. If Taves wants to retire, he definitely, has that option. But if he still feels the itch to go out there and play, which I do think he does, I think there's going to be some teams, not a team, but I think there's going to be some teams that are going to be reaching out to his agent to, as they're showing interest in his services for next season. At the end of the day, we know that the Blackhawks are in rebuild mode. They finished in last place in their division, first time in a month of Sundays that has happened. But nonetheless, the Blackhawks have to try to get back on track. But at the end of the day, for a guy like Jonathan Toews, he has meant so much to this team for so long. I think it was fitting that he got the send off that he did on Thursday night, got to do it in front of the home fans. A lot of respect, obviously, within that Blackhawks organization for him. You also saw the love and support from the Philadelphia Flyers as they, sat back or stood back rather quietly and paid respect to Jonathan Toews. But nonetheless, he leaves Chicago as a legend. And the fact that he helped bring 3 Stanley Cup championships to the Windy City means that he will never be forgotten, in the sports history in that illustrious and rich sports town. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.